intensely that people ask you who Jesus is. To be part of the change where Christ comes into our lives and also changes this world.
A story is told by Stephen Covey about a college professor who walked before his class and gave the following illustration. He walked up to the table and he pulled out a glass vase and set it before everyone, and proceeded to reach under the table again and pull out a big bucket of rocks. Slowly, one by one, he took the rocks and put them into the vase and filled up the glass vase with big rocks. He paused for a moment and asked his audience, says, "How many of you would say that this glass is full?" Most of the class raised their hands and said, "Of course it's full." To which the professor said, "But is it really full?" And he pulled out from underneath the table another bucket, this one full of sand. And he proceeded to pour the bucket of sand into the glass vase, filling in all the cracks and crevices and spaces between the bigger rocks. Again, he asked his audience, he said, "Now, how many of you would say that this glass vase is full?" And some of them, catching on a little bit, said, "It appears as if it's full, but it's probably not." The professor chuckled and said, "You're right, it's not full." And he reached under the table and pulled out again a big gallon of water. And he took the cap off and proceeded to pour the water into the glass container. And again, the water filled in all the cracks and all between all the sand and the rocks and filled it so it was completely full. And the professor turned to his class and says, "So what is the point of this illustration?" And one smart kid raised his hand and he says, "The point of this illustration is that no matter how full you feel your schedule is, there's always room for something else." The professor chuckled and said, "No, the point of the illustration is that you have to put the big rocks in first or you'll never get them in." As we are headed into the winter and fall, most of us have come off a really great summer of ministry, and we launched the fall really focused on the goal. What is it that our ministry is set out to accomplish? What is it that we're trying to achieve? What is it that we want to see happen in the lives of these teenagers? And the first couple months of every school season, I know I set off really strong with keeping my big rocks first and primary right in front of me. But as I seem to kind of get to this part of the year, every year I start to kind of lose focus on those big rocks and what's really important, and keeping those first. I started to get distracted by all the office administrative duties, by turning in the receipts that I need to, keeping straight of all the administrative stuff with flyers and news and communication and announcements and planning and scheduling and all that. And the big rocks that are really important to me in the beginning of the year start to kind of fade away, and I start to lose focus on those things. I want to remind myself and you guys to make sure that we stay focused on the big rocks, the things that are really important. Because a lot of us would say, if I would ask you, what are the big rocks? What are the things that are so important? They need to make sure that they're in your ministry first and that they stay there, and that the rest of the things kind of fill in around that. What are those rocks that are so super important in your ministry that they should never be lost sight of? And a lot of us could rattle off some really good things. We could say things, like evangelism, of course. That's a really good big rock. That's a non-negotiable and needs to stay there. maybe discipleship or teaching God's word or building relationships or prayer or whatever. Those are all really good things that most of us would agree are totally supposed to be the main rocks. But then something happens and we start to lose focus, and I think something that happens here that I kind of want to make note of is that there's a difference between values and beliefs, and what we truly value is what is going to determine how our ministry runs and operates. I can really believe something. Like, I believe prayer is important. I believe evangelism, discipleship, and relationships. I believe all those things are important. But what will really drive my ministry is the things that me and the rest of my volunteer team, the things that we really value. And so when a push comes to shove and there's only so much time in a day, what we really value will push the belief sometimes out of the way. So I want to remind us and make sure we've defined what those big rocks are, we're focused on them, we're keeping them there, and we're building the rest of our ministry around that rather than just getting distracted by all the things that we often get distracted by at this time of the year. So build your ministry around those things and really make those values for you, not just beliefs that you say are good and we'll all admit are good, but when we look at how we're spending our time, where our budget, money, and resources are going, and the things we're actually doing with kids, and when we look at what's actually happening, are our values really being reflected in our ministry, or is it the beliefs that are just kind of taking over? So remember what those big rocks are for you. Make sure they're going your ministry first and stay focused on them at this time of the year. Encourage you guys to do that, and as I remind myself as well. Thanks for hanging out with us for another Life and Student Ministry video post. I'll see you guys again soon. Bye.